Really pleased that Dr. Billy Mullins is going to be sharing his research findings from his intramural grant. So I'll just let you take it away.
Thank you, Dr. Pence. And I will go ahead and start sharing. Um, I am going to present my slides. While I'm presenting them, unfortunately, I can't see the chat. But I do have an area at the end where we can have some discussion and then some Q&A. So I'm going to try to get it into there we go. There we go. Okay, so welcome everyone, and thank you for taking the time to join me here today to talk about, a study that's near and dear to my heart. This research focused on exploring men's career paths in nursing, and this study was funded by the 2025 Mentor Pilot Award by GW Nursing. I I functioned as the primary investigator for this study. Dr. Michelle Rumble was the co-primary investigator. And then Kathy Cox was our mentor for this project, as well as, one of the part of the research team. So our learning objectives, we're going to have to move our faces because I
So
can't
once you learn
see
about
my
the need,
slides. There we go. So our learning objectives here, we're going to be identifying the factors that influences men's nursing specialty choices across the career stages, as well as explore how confidence, mentorship, and workplace culture shape career decisions, and as well as apply these study findings to suggest strategies that will support men's career development in nursing. So who am I? That's the question of the hour, right? So I am a male nurse, leader, and educator. Um, when I transitioned from specialized services to be part of the non-tenure track, focusing on creating a research and scholarship focus around workforce development, specifically looking at, diversity inclusion in workforce development around men in the nursing profession. Of course, I have personal and professional motivation to examine men's career nursing pathways from my own experiences as a nurse in the nursing profession, as well as uh, my experiences of how men, contribute to the professional of nursing practice as well. So I am a DNP prepared nurse and conducting this doctoral level research with the mentorship from a PhD prepared nurse scientist, Dr. Kathy Cox. So why does this topic matter to us? Well, there is a continued ongoing nursing shortage, and there is a continued underrepresentation of men in nursing. So currently, it has increased over time since I've been in the nursing practice. I entered in 87 into the nursing. And since then, we have made some increases, but it's only up to about 14% right now nationally of men in the nursing profession. So we're still very much underrepresented. Men remain concentrated in certain specialties, and that's part of the driving force of this study is looking at data from the U.S. Census and Bureau reports that men tend to be working in critical care, administration, anesthesia, um, and emergency medicine. And so that kind of drove the concept of the study as why is that? Is that by career choice or is that by how they're mentored or is it by, what's available for them for career options? And so when we did our lit review, there was limited research on how men decide where they fit in nursing. And so myself, Dr. Rumble, Dr. Cox, we independently, using the same key terms, mesh terms, looked to find research about this. We weren't really able to find anything that talked about why men choose certain specialties. With that, I reached out to our research librarian, Tom Hammond, who also met with me, and we did a research review together using those same terms, and weren't able to find any research that indicated, why men may choose one career path over another. So then we decided that there is a gap in research based on this, and this was an opportunity to look about how can that gap be filled. So that's kind of what we know from the literature. Most of the research focuses on entering into nursing, experiences of discrimination, with less attention to specialty decision making and experiences across the career lifespan. So there are gaps that exist between education, practice, and career development for men in the nursing profession. So that became the purpose of our study. We wanted to understand how do men or why men choose certain nursing specialties, explore those influences across different career stages, and by career, we'll talk more about that in a second. Identify factors that support or limit career pathways, as well as generate recommendations for education as well as nursing practice. And so these were our research questions. What influences men's specialty choice in nursing? How do these influences change over time? And what supports help men navigate career decisions? So the theoretical framework that we used for this specific study was the social cognitive career theory by Linton Brown. The theory is career decisions are shaped by self-efficacy, so confidence, outcome expectations. So what are they wanting to, what's the expected outcome based on an action? Career goals, and contextual supports and barriers, as well as personal, social, and organizational influences. And you can see our references there. So our design. So we decided to go with a qualitative descriptive design based on the lack of research out there that we could use as a basis for our study, because it was going to be hard to do quantitative when we don't have a survey tool that could be used. So it was determined that qualitative descriptive design was the best design for this specific study, focusing on conducting semi-structured interviews. And then, of course, our analysis was going to be to directed, deductive, first coded to the theoretical framework, and then conventional inductive. And we were focusing on career stage lens, focused in on these three areas. So nurses in practice from 0 to 5 years, that's early career, and then nurses who've been practicing for 6 to 10 years, that's our mid-career, and then the nurses in practice 11 or more years, so that's our late career nurses. So we were able to interview 27 participants, male registered nurses practicing in the United States, representing a broad range of clinical specialties and practice settings. Our recruitment for participants was through the American Association of Men in Nursing membership, as well as snowball sampling. So we started with getting people from the membership, and then to get more participants, we moved towards snowball sampling. And again, focusing on those career stages representing early, mid, and late career nurses. Data collection was virtual, so audio recorded semi-structured interviews conducted via Zoom to enhance accessibility. And I'm very excited to say that we had interviewed participants from the East Coast to the West Coast and North to South. So it's a very broad national study that we were able to conduct. Uh, the, I conducted all the interviews, so Dr. Cox, Dr. Rumble, and I decided that for consistency, that one of us would conduct all the interviews. And so, being a male nurse, I got to be the chosen person to conduct the interviews, and I did conduct all 27 interviews. The timing of the interviews was between July and October of last year, 2025, with approximate timing of the interviews ranging from 15 to 64 minutes, with a mean of 24 minutes for the interviews. The interview focused on educational pathways, mentorship experiences, specialty exploration, interprofessional team dynamics, job decision factors, and perceptions of gender norms in nursing practice. And then the demographics for our participants was collected via a Qualtrics survey. The study was determined to be a exempt study, category two, which means it was minimal risk research using non-identifiable educational test surveys or interviews. And the GWIRB board is the one that it was submitted to and reviewed. Again, our demographics, we had a N of 27 participants. The ages of the participants ranged from 23 to 66 years of age, with the mean age of 42.59, and the mean age at the first job being 28.22 years. The mean number of years in their first job was 2.18 years, and the year entering practice ranged from 1985 to present. And here's some comments that came from the Qualtrics survey about, first job comments. So I applied to the ED, but took the first available job. I was previously working in an ICU as a hospital corpsman. I returned as a nurse, and they wanted me to go back to that same unit. I really wanted to start in the ICU, yet was being told that I am not young enough for those positions. I wanted to work in the medical ICU. I wanted to go into public health. And the last one we added here is I wanted a position in the ICU or L&D. The ICU told me they don't take new grads, and L&D told me they're not comfortable hiring a male nurse. So our big picture findings, career decisions were dynamic and evolving and influenced by their confidence development, workplace experiences, mentorship and leadership, and perceptions of fit and sustainability. So not typically linear career pathways. So self-advocacy across the career, so confidence and competence. So for those in their early career stage, this is that they've been practicing for 0 to 5 years. They had fragile confidence and validation from others mattered to them. So a comment from one of our participants indicated that I felt like I couldn't just be a mediocre nurse. I felt like I had to be excellent and stand out in some kind of way in order to justify being a male in the profession. And with our mid-career, confidence was grounded in experience and intentional decision making. And one of the comments that we have here is seeing the competency of the pediatric ICU nurses along with being able to be the person that other people would like to look up to solve problems in that kind of environment would require, in my opinion, someone with a lot of mental and emotional resilience. And I want to be just like that. And then our late career, that greater than or equal to 11 years of practice, integration of multiple roles, and leadership and broader influences. So a comment from one of our participants here states that my superiors saw my work ethic and leadership abilities, and I was selected to do certain roles or assignments that typically you have to be a top performer to do. I was put in charge very quickly and given a lot of responsibility. And so what men anticipate from specialty choices? So in the earlier career, they expected skill building, flexibility, and marketability. In the later career, that 6+ years, it was sustainability and a work-life fit, as well as meaningful contribution to the nursing profession. And career goals often evolve after exposure, not before. Okay, and some contextual supports and barriers. So the role of the environment, some positive influences was mentorship, supportive leadership, and inclusive unit cultures, whereas some barriers were gendered expectations, specialty steering, and unspoken norms about where men belong. And then the theme beyond the theoretical framework, so visibility and tokenism. And here's a quote from one of our participants. When I first pursued this role, there was one other male nurse and he worked the night shift. So it was like the position that I applied for was for the day shift. So it's like, oh, you're allowed one. You can have a night male or a day male. So it's like the male during the day, and then the other person was the male at night. And then theme beyond the theoretical framework, can't say the word now, compensatory performance pressure. I'm getting tongue-tied, sorry. Uh, a quote from one of our late career participants stated, I feel like based on my gender and my position in the profession, I was not given the opportunities that others were. And so there was also this kind of underlying sense of always needing to be better prepared than other colleagues, which probably contributed to my educational journey taking precedence over maybe some career development positions that I could have taken. But I also feel like a few times positions were withheld or not available to me because of who I am. And then gender task assignment and specialty hierarchy. And again, a comment from one of our mid-career participants. Realistically, what I mean by the expectations is as male nurses, we're going to be the first person they go to a lot of the time for heavy lifting or intimidation type behaviors or type roles. If there's problems in the workplace setting, for example, a combative patient or aggressive family member, we are going to be asked to intervene because we're men. And so some implications for nursing education and practice. So why does this matter? So from an educational perspective, early intentional exposure to diverse specialties and structured mentorship can support informed specialty exploration for male nursing students and new graduates. From a practice perspective, leadership attention to equitable task assignment, onboarding, and informal role expectations is critical to fostering confidence, belonging, and retention. From the workforce perspective, targeted mentorship during early career transitions may reduce attrition and support broader specialty participation over time. And then from a research perspective, continued longitudinal and mixed methods research is needed to examine specialty decision making across the career lifespan, including organizational and intersectional influences. So some key takeaways. Men's nursing careers are not linear. Confidence develops over time and experience. Context matters as much as individual choice, and supporting men benefits the nursing workforce as a whole. Our plans for dissemination. First, dissemination here today with all of you, the Lunch and Learn research session. Second uh, plan is that we have submitted an abstract for a podium presentation, and it has been accepted for the 2026 Annual American Association for Men in Nursing Conference. And this will be titled Leveraging Men's Nursing Perspectives to Strengthen Workforce Preparedness. We're also planning to submit an abstract to um, the AACN 2026 Transform Conference. So upon release for the call of abstracts, and I think that date now is June 1st. So that's around the corner. I'm registered for the conference this afternoon. So I'm very hopeful that I'll be able to present there as well. And then a manuscript is an advanced draft and nearing submission for Nursing Outlook. And the title of that manuscript is going to be Self-Efficacy in Scrubs, Men's Special Decision Making in a Gendered Profession. And of course, a huge thank you to GW Nursing's Mentor Pilot Award Program for funding our research. And of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't say thank you to Dr. Cox, who, as everyone knows, is an amazing mentor in all ways, especially research, and Dr. Rumble as well, who has been a mentor and co-PI for this project. And now a couple items for discussion. So I would like to hear from all of you of what resonates with your experience based on the presentation of the study, and where do you think education or leadership should intervene earlier to promote men in nursing as well as promote men in different specialty tracks and pathways. So I'll stop sharing so I can see faces because, oh, right. Thank you. Thank you, Michelle. And since you're here, is there anything you would like to add based on your experiences with doing the study?
I don't. I think you did a lovely job presenting. So wonderful job.
Thank you. Dr. Rumble is so our research team, I'll talk a little bit about that. Why do the three of us come together other than we're just amazing people to work together? The three of us have unique perspectives and backgrounds that really worked well for this study. Mine is obvious. I'm a man in nursing, so there we have that. But Dr. Rumble's, historical perspective and looking at men across nursing throughout the time, and then Dr. Cox's focus in on workforce, it just felt like a great combination of people to work together to approach the study. So huge thanks to Michelle and Kathy. I see hands. Adriana, I see your hand first.
Thank you. So thank you, Dr. Mullins. This is really fabulous work, and I'm looking forward to more of it. So after you have disseminated this, I'm waiting anxiously to hear about your next study.
My next study is actually being led by Sherry Wallington, where she invited me to participate with her on a study focusing on prostate health awareness. So I'll be working with her in the southeast area of DC. And my role in the study will be facilitating and organizing focus group discussions
Thanks.
on that.
And I did have like a kind of a quick question. So just anecdotally, I know when I've talked to men that are in nursing, a lot of times it seems like the kind of more technical kind of like you touched on the ICU and the was just very attractive for them just based upon, how oftentimes men are socialized. And so I was wondering, what how can we reshape or reframe that so men would consider using their full skill set instead of just gravitating toward
Mhm.
these very highly technical roles like in the ED and the ICU?
That's a great question. And based on the interview interactions with the 27 participants, as well as my own personal experience as a man in nursing, um, I think what we can do as nurse educators is normalize men in the profession and that every specialty men belong there. That it's not that, you should be focused on technology because you're a man, or you should be fast-paced environment because you're a man. Um, and Florence Nightingale, it's a love-hate relationship, but a big part of her framework is, nurse as mother, which indicates women are nurturing, men are not. And so I think that mindset has had an impact on how male students are mentored in the nursing profession and what areas they're encouraged to navigate towards versus not. I mean, even in nursing school, I was instructed that I should navigate toward administration without even clinical practice, right? So I think that's a big part of it as nurses and educators in nursing, that we encourage our students to pursue their passion regarding that, focus. Because the research I did find that talked about men in different specialties talked about men who worked in pediatrics were viewed as pedophiles, and men who worked in OB were viewed as sexual deviants. And so we have to move away from that and start focusing on that. Do male doctors in pediatrics, are they pedophiles? Or are male doctors in obstetrics sexual deviants? Why is it the nurse is called that versus the male physician?
Thank you. And I just wanted you to know this morning when I was doing orientation with the students for inclusive excellence, we actually had a case scenario where instructor made a comment about, oh, you'll do well in leadership, the men always
Mhm.
do. And the students picked right up on what
Mhm.
type of, being able to classify that as a potential for discrimination with regard to opportunities as well as bias. So we're trying, Dr. Mullins.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Dr. Kassar.
Thank you, Dr. Mullins, for that very interesting presentation. I learned a lot of different viewpoints and kind of gave you stuff to consider that you might not have otherwise. So thank you. I'm curious to hear, I'm not sure if you asked this or if it came up while you were doing your interviews, but did your participants express a satisfaction with those first jobs that they were able to secure? Did they get to do what they really wanted to do, or did they just feel kind of moved in a certain direction?
It was a combination of stuff, to be honest with you, and that's why it wasn't really so linear. Because some people, like in the late career stage, some of them were CNAs first, so they were taking, nursing jobs on those units because they had been there, people knew them, and it was felt like a comfortable transition. And that's why a lot of the more late career nurses actually started in med surg compared to the early career people that are starting more in critical care. Uh, and for those, it seemed to be around more of where they're like steered toward more than just anything. Yet there was some degree of choice because of personal experiences. Like one particular participant said to me, they chose the neuro ICU based on like a family member's, health status. So it was a combination of different things.
Do you think the later career nurses started more? I know you said that some of them had worked as CNAs, but back when all of us older people were getting our first jobs, most of us weren't allowed to work in a specialty until we had done a year of med
Mhm.
surg first. Do you feel like that might have
Mhm.
had anything to do with it, or
It might have, but it wasn't really something that came up, to be honest.
thank you.
You're welcome. Dale.
Hi, thanks. I have, this is very stimulating, and I have a lot of questions, so I'm going to just ask you two. Um, so one is really tiny. I have not seen before the convention you were using to identify the quotes, which I assume is a like just made up words to go with the initials. Can you can you just, I haven't seen that before. I've seen like participant number one, but can you tell me about that?
Oh yeah, so to create like a confidential way so that I can keep up with the transcript, but no one else knows who the people were. And actually, Kathy Cox shared this with me as her technique of doing qualitative research is to have the participant create their own code name, and it's
Oh,
based off asking them three questions.
okay, thanks. I learned
Yeah.
something. Oh,
I did too. It was actually a cute, clever way because, it's basically like a favorite historical person, uh, a favorite cartoon character, and the number of the words in the title of their favorite book.
cool. Um, anyway, that struck me. So I was the big picture question I wanted to ask is you we went by the theory piece fast, and I'm
Mhm.
not familiar with that theory. But what I'm wondering is, do you think the what shaped choice and shapes opportunities is similar, different, or markedly different than what we deal with other minoritized groups? In other words, it's important to have a role model. It's important to have explicit welcomes. Or are there some things that really stood out? I think it does stand out for me the genderedness of societal roles, like no, you can't have a man in labor and delivery, right? So that stands out. But how do you think this is similar or different to other efforts to broaden diversity and inclusion?
That's a great question. And let me see if I can try to answer in my personal thought processes based on doing this study. Um, I can say that from the demographics, it was 70% white men. Then, and so that was just, how it was. Because again, we were recruiting people based off of an announcement through the email membership of the American Association of Men in Nursing. Um, and so people who were responding to that call to participate was the first way we did that. And then the snowballing, we tried to look at reaching out to people that basically who graduated from our programs in the past at GW. And we were able to get more diversity actually that way than we did from the membership list. Um, and so we did get some people participating who talked about not only the discrimination that they felt they experienced as a man, but also the discrimination they felt they experienced as a man of color. So that did come up some in the process as well. Um, and, made it feel like it was even more noticeable to them, not only to be the only man, but to be a man of color as well. That probably didn't answer your question specifically, but that's the best I can offer you this time. Kathy.
Hello, everybody, and thank you, Dr. Mullins, for that excellent presentation. I don't really have a question. I just have three comments. First of all, how you and how I remember coming on board to your projects is different than how you eloquently said it. I remember being cornered by you and Dr. Rumble and said, "Hey, we have some ideas and we want you to help us." So and I'm like, I'm in, because Dr. Mullins and Dr. Rumble are just such a pleasure to work with. And then the second thing is for anyone, as a nurse scientist or as a mentor, it makes such a big difference if you enjoy the team you're working with and if your mentee listens to you, and then if they don't agree with you, we can talk it through, so Dr. Mullins was just eager to always learn, to always take it in. He did his due diligence. Actually, I said, because at first we were thinking to do quantitative. I said, no homegrown surveys, see what's out there. And there wasn't anything out there. And I said, so if we can't answer it from that, then let's go qualitative. But then Dr. Mullins was new to qualitative research, or actually doing research, not that he didn't know about it. And so we did a practice interview. It's kind of like a bracketing interview, even though he wasn't doing phenomenology, but it helped him to see. I asked his questions, his interview questions. He was my participant, and it was kind of nice for him just to see how the interview process works. You don't stick to your list. You just kind of go where the participant takes you, and sometimes you don't have to go through all your questions because the participant's taking you through that. And so the minute he did that and then watched that, he was on a roll. And then would check in. He checked in with Dr. Rumble and myself like every week. Here's the update. I've gotten these many people. I'm short for this group. Do you know anyone? What else can we do? The snowballing. He reached out to some national male nurses, and I think I don't know because he's the only one who knows the participants, but I think he got a yes pretty much from all of them, to come talk. Or to talk with him. And then I also remember Dr. Mullen saying how much fun he was having with the interviews. And I said, that's the best part is when you're actually qualitative is doing the interviews. So I just want to thank Dr. Mullins and Dr. Rumble for inviting me for the team and just say it was just such a pleasure. And then the other funny thing is we would check in, most of I'm out of the country. So Dr. Mullins would call, say, what time can everyone meet? We would meet. And probably we didn't even talk about the research study for the first half hour because we like each other, so much. We would just catch up or talk or see what's going on or who was traveling. And so I'm just going to say it was such a pleasure. So thank you for that presentation. So no questions. I just wanted to give you shout outs. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Cox. And, I couldn't have done it without you and Michelle. You guys are amazing. And just to add on to what Dr. Cox stated, in addition to experiencing the interview from Dr. Cox's interviewing me, we also tested the questions that were going to be used for the interview by having a nurse that I reached out to and asked if he would answer the questions for us so that we can see how the questions would go with giving us the data that we were hoping to receive. Kind of like, how can we, learn what we don't know concept. Christine, you're,
Well, thank you for your great presentation. And I guess, the thing that I found really interesting was before knowing you and like not knowing anything about men in nursing really, other than there are men in nursing, my, you know, only anecdotal knowledge of men in nursing was that they all seem to go into leadership. And I thought it was, in my perspective, just, of my observations was that for some reason men were, moved into leadership roles, who knows, instead of the women, like maybe they had better opportunities or something. And it never occurred to me that they were sort of almost pushed into those roles because that's how people saw them. That based on whatever their ideas about how men contribute in nursing, that they should be slotted towards certain roles. So I really appreciate you educating me on that. And now I really do have a different perspective about, how people get kind of slotted into their different aspects of nursing. So thank you.
Thank you, Christy. And based on your comment, I just reflect back on my pediatric instructor when I was a student who literally during post-conference went around the table to tell every student like where she felt they belong.
Oh,
And it was very interesting. Of course, mine was leadership without, even asking me what I wanted to do in my life. Um, Tony.
Hi, hi, Billy. First, congratulations on what you've accomplished here. You and Kathy have done some amazing work, so it's great. I had one question related to, and I'm sorry if you went over this. We're having thunderstorms move through the area. I was kind of out of internet service just for a minute, so I'm back. But if you covered this, my apologies. But I was curious with the regions, did you find any differences in data that came out of that from the different, because you said it was from, the nation. You had kind of a broad representation. I was just curious if there was any differences between the different regions of the country.
That's a great question. It really, and so I am excited that we did get to interview people literally from Hawaii, California, Washington State, Florida, New York, the DMV area, Midwest, all of those areas were thoroughly covered, which was, awesome. But I really can't say that there was a big difference that came out from one area versus another. We weren't really looking for that, to be honest. I didn't have any questions that connected to that specific content. But as I reflect on the interviews themselves, there's nothing that stands out to me that came out specifically. For instance, the person in Washington State's experiences really didn't differ that much from the person in Florida regarding, how they chose their first career.
Thank you.
You are welcome. That's a great question. I didn't really think about that until you brought that up. Um, but I don't recall, that being something that really came up or a theme that identified itself. Rick.
Hi, everyone. Sorry I'm off camera. I'm in clinic and the clinic doesn't have a video. So um, I wanted to listen in because, as you can imagine, this is an interesting topic to me, and I'm sure it is to Tony as well. Um, you know, what is interesting is when you look at the concept of leadership, because I'm very quite familiar with leadership as one of the areas that I study a lot of across disciplines. The fact that men in nursing are, if you look at the percentages and the demographics, tend to be more in the senior leadership positions is not unique to nursing. So first of all, when you're looking at gender differences or sex differences, whichever demographic you want to use or call it, um, there is a consistency amongst that pattern in professions outside of nursing. For example, if you look at CEOs of corporate America, or you look at women on boards across corporate America, or you're looking at, it tends to be more biased towards men. So, what is interesting in nursing is because, the percentage of women in nursing is so high. So when you look at the relative comparisons, it is interesting. And one, I have done a couple of studies on gender differences, particularly in the military. I've been funded to look at physical performance differences between men and women in the military, and I've published on that. So I'm somewhat familiar. When you put up your slide that talks about some of the issues that men had with their career, I think what you could look at is see how that compares to women. What's been published on women relative to their challenges whether they're early, mid, or late career, and try to identify maybe some unique aspects of because when you presented that slide, I think in a generic sense, I'm thinking that seems like the same challenges women are having. That just anecdotally, I'm thinking when you look at what you put up, early career challenges, mid-career challenges, late career challenges, I think women are having the same challenges. And what would be interesting is to look at that literature and see if you can tease out as you keep doing more of this to see what maybe is specific or different in men. Um, just to close out, I have to tell you, when I did work as a nursing assistant as a man, and before I became a nurse, and I was given all the heavy lifts in the ED where I worked as a nursing assistant, but that didn't bother me. What's interesting when I came into the military and I went in after I graduated, my first assignment was labor and delivery. I came in as a brand new nurse
It's so
and
funny.
I was assigned to labor and delivery. So and while I was there, it's interesting. The first 6 months I was there was a big push to get male nurses out of labor and delivery. So I ended up leaving. So I was kind of in the wave before that came, and there was. So it's what I'm saying is it's interesting how what goes around comes around. Everything is very cyclic. Because for a long time, there really was no problem with having a man in the L&D. And then the period came up where it stopped and it's kind of carried through. So it's all very interesting to me how much of what we do is rooted in non-evidence. It's rooted in societal kinds of pressures. Last thing was, came into the military, first few months of me being in L&D, all the CRNAs came in because all 99% of the CRNAs in the military were men.
Yeah, yeah.
And all the CRNAs come up to me and said, male CRNAs, okay, when you're coming down to the OR and we'll show you what the CRNAs do. So when you become a CRNA, and I'm thinking, I haven't even crossed my mind that I want. So I did go down. I worked with them. They were all senior officers, and I'm like, well, I got to do what they're asking me to do. They're senior officers. So I went down to the OR, watched them do what they did in nurse anesthesia, and I'm like, that's not for me. So it is interesting how we do have stereotypical norms that build that, kind of continue based on history of the profession. So great work. Appreciate your work and look forward to doing more work in this area because we do need to have a really broad spectrum of the population in nursing. What the population looks like should be corresponding to what nursing looks like.
Thank you. Dell.
With permission, I'd like to double dip since nobody else had their hand up.
Of course you may.
Okay, so you talk about first job, but I wonder, did you talk about the choice to enter nursing? Did you ask about the choice to enter nursing to start with? And because I don't recall that you told us about that. And I'm now hearing some reflections from others, Dr. McCartney. Is the military one of the places that people see the role? Is that a big factor? Or I don't know, how did people decide that they wanted to go into nursing at all?
Yeah. That really wasn't captured in this study, Dale. It's a great question. So more of the capture was focusing on, you know, the specialty that they were choosing. So that was really where the focus was geared toward with a specific study more so than why nursing.
So have other people done that work, or is that another study? Is that a
It's
next
just like
study?
another study opportunity. What are you doing next year?
What are you doing next year? Yeah.
For the military, and Rick has a lot, and Kathy have more time in the military than I do. I was only in for one term, but you really don't get a whole lot of choice where you go. It's changed over time where that you get to put in more of a request of where you'd like to go. But when in my day, there was no option. You just went where they had the hole, and that's where you got placed. So it wasn't really like an opportunity to choose. And so with that, um, we didn't really, I think we only had a couple that were first job was military. And so with that, they got to kind of make some recommendation, but they weren't really able to um, be the full decider on where they were going. But most of there's people that we interviewed, at least 25 of them, their first job was not military. And Kathy's hand is up. So, Kathy.
I'm going to take advantage, like Dale did, to provide a question as long as you've got the floor open. A couple of things. Michelle and I, and of course, Dr. Mullins, we had the privilege of reading through all the interviews. And the words are just so powerful. And unfortunately, you just got, in the interest of time, you just got snapshots, of that. You'll see more in the article that Dr. Mullins is working on with the team. So, what I thought was interesting in the interviews, one of the questions that Dr. Mullins asked is, did your family, did they influence your choice, about nursing? And I don't remember anyone saying yes. I would have to go back and look. So I thought that was interesting because I just assumed, that
Mhm.
family or friends, would matter. So it was more about what the participant saw themselves. And then circling back to Tony's questions, about the demographics, and then the regions. So Dr. Mullins collected the demographics via Qualtrics, but they're not linked to the interviews. That's to protect confidentiality, of everyone. So unless Dr. Mullins knows from those personal interviews, it wouldn't have been linked to the region. But I can confirm what Dr. Mullins says after reading through the interviews, and I didn't know where from. He pulled out these great commonalities, and did a great job with the analysis, the item analysis. So I think that's it, what I wanted to say. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Cox. I appreciate that. And I know we're a few minutes over, so I want to be respectful of everyone's time. But if anyone has any other question or if they would like to share, what they would think we could do as nursing educators at GW Nursing to make GW, more inclusive for our male students, and how can we support them in their career paths? And Sabrina, you can give us some feedback too, since I see you there with Chad.
Well, I just would like to thank you very much for your presentation. I would just say that I think that GW Nursing actually is doing pretty well with our male student numbers. I think we're, higher than the average for other universities. So I think we're doing a pretty good job. And I'm sure, with people like Billy and Rick and Tony, we could attract more male students. So.
Awesome.
So anyway, thank you for your attention today. We'll be mindful of the time so that you can go on to the rest of your day's activities. Any last words, Billy?
No, just thank everyone for coming today because I know that your time is a precious commodity. So I appreciate you being here.
All right. Thanks a lot.